Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tait Desae, host and founder of Brother Breathe. Now, listen, some of you all know that I'm currently in my PhD coursework, and I am taking a class this semester called Leadership Theory and Practice. One of the assignments require us to interview a leader within higher education that we admire. Well, y'all know your brother is an overachiever. So I ended up interviewing four leaders that I admire within higher education. And now I've created a leadership series for Brother Breathe. Now, some of you all may have listened to my first podcast this month questioning what is leadership really? Hmm. Well, buckle your seatbelts because now you get to hear from esteemed leaders from across the country that are going to share their leadership philosophies, their expertise, their journey to wellness, and the power of community. So I need you all to like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to follow these leaders. They are quite inspiring and they have a lot to offer everybody. Okay. So be sure to like and subscribe and share. I want you all to get as much as you can out of this series. And I'm so excited to be able to share these leaders who I admire and who are doing great work within higher education spaces. So again, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure your friends know about it. Don't forget to leave me a comment because I do read them. And I also want you all to leave a review because that is also helpful for the future work that we'll do together. All right. Remember, you're not alone, and we are going to breathe through this. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brother Breathe. It's your host, Tait Desae, and I'm super excited about today's conversation with our leader on today. And you all know that we have been in a leadership series this month, and I am so happy to be joined by one of my good friends, but also just someone that I admire from afar, Dr. Naomi Sigg. And I think it's just so befitting to start the conversation off with the words of Dr. or I don't think she was a doctor, but Dorothy Day, a Catholic social justice warrior. And she says the greatest challenge of the day is how to bring about a revolution of the heart, a revolution to which has to start with each of us. And today I am joined by Dr. Naomi Sigg, who is the vice president for student experience and campus belonging at John Carroll University. And so I am super excited to just start this conversation and just to kind of check in with you. How are you feeling? How's your heart? How's your spirit?
Great. Thank you so much. For a Monday, I'm feeling pretty upbeat. I've had a very busy family weekend, lots of good family time, and I'm ready for this week to begin. And our students are on fall break, but the
Oh,
work, as
okay.
you know, never stops, even if they're
Right.
here or not here. So I'm feeling pretty good for a Monday afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
I love that. Well, you look amazing. We're matching today. So great minds think alike.
Right.
Um and I just wanted to say that we met about maybe 2.5, almost 3 years ago, maybe at this point in Cleveland. And you didn't know me that well, but I just wanted to share with you that your spirit and your light was something that I needed at the time because I was going through so much, just personal and professional. And I just wanted to share with you that you were just such a light to have met during that time. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
yes. Absolutely, absolutely. You never know who you may touch, right? And so, but of course, in today's conversation, we're talking about leadership and in the
Mhm.
context of higher education, but also just in life in general. And I want to get to know a little bit more about you. And if you could share with us just something fun, if your leadership journey were a book or a movie,
Mm.
what would the title be and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. I will share this. So I got a chance to, when I was in high school, do a speech for my National Honor Society, and I remember, because faith and spirituality are a big part of my life. I used
Mhm,
a verse in Matthew that talks about, whoever will be chief among you, let them be your servant, right?
mhm.
So maybe that would be somehow woven into my leadership. Movie title or book title would be like chief as servant or servant in chief. I don't know, like something that
Yeah, yeah.
I truly believe that if you are called and you are going to take a leadership role, you need to understand that that is all rooted in serving the people around you, using your God-given talents to ensure that you're serving others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that so much. Even though I created this question, I struggle with it too a little bit. And I was trying to think a book or a movie, but one movie that really sticks out to me, and I think I've saw it so many times because it was the go-to movie for substitutes during high school. We would watch it whenever we had a substitute. But remember the Titans
Oh
with
yeah.
Denzel
Oh
Washington?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
misunderstood the question. I thought if you had to make up your own title as a book.
no, either or. It worked. No, you did that perfectly. And I couldn't make it up. But so it's not really the movie that really represents like I guess my leadership journey, but it was certain characters in the movie. So like Church, I forget what his actual name was, but I know Church was so influential in the way that I kind of viewed myself as a teenager. And I still glean from that movie here and there because it really displayed right how to be a leader under pressure, how to be a
Mhm.
leader when there's so many factors up against you, right? Like you had a new coach, you had all of these even environmental factors that took place. It was very racialized, very so many things were going on, but it really showed like the purpose of honing in on who you are and what your beliefs are. So similar to what you just shared, right? Faith and spirituality, and how that can really feed and fuel, your philosophy around leadership. So I love that movie. It's so old. Folks probably don't even know what we're talking about at this point, but Google it. Remember the Titans,
Good
a
movie.
classic. Yes, a classic. So as we talk more about leadership, could you describe a little bit about your personal definition of leadership?
Sure. I mean, I think that's kind of what I mentioned. I think it's using the talents that you have to serve the people, who are around you in that moment. I mean, I think we're always, you know, pulled into different circumstances, different communities, and whether it's for a reason or a season, you're planted there to serve, to do something to help, find solutions to problems or to address an issue of justice that people haven't been thinking about. For me, education has been that issue that has been sort of central to my leadership journey. As an immigrant here from the Philippines, my parents always talked about that the reason they came here, they sacrificed all that they knew and all that they were to come to a different country was because they knew that education for me as their only child would be the door of opportunity for success and for me to be able to live a life that maybe my parents would have never even thought of in their wildest dreams. So
Mm,
I think that that's why I'm planted in higher ed, is so that I can ensure that everybody who gets here has an experience where they can be successful, where they won't fall through the cracks, where I can train and help other people in this field think about ways that they can be part of the care and success of every single student, regardless of their identities, their perspectives, or their backgrounds. We serve everyone, and
mhm.
that's something that I try to make sure I instill in my teams.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that, especially about your own identities and how your family has influenced even some of your decisions on even your career, right? And how you want to serve others. Could you talk a little bit more about being a woman of color and in the leadership? How has that kind of impacted your journey within higher education, especially in a religious context? As you are at is a Jesuit institution,
Yeah,
right?
Jesuit Catholic school, yeah.
And so could you talk a little bit about that and about your journey, at John Carroll?
Yeah, I'm very grateful to be a part of a Jesuit Catholic institution because we start at the same place, which is we're all made in the image of God. And that is
Mhm.
a very powerful place to start. That means we all matter, that we're all
Right.
important, and each of us has a reason for being. And so, we also have a mission and an identity that every one of us needs to align with. And, I've been at wonderful schools. I've loved my journey in higher education at the various schools I've been a part of. However, to have such a strong and clear mission and identity at a Jesuit institution has been, I think, a blessing for me because I know exactly how every other person needs to also interact with each other, and that's different than some of the other places I've been. Um,
Mhm.
I think my journey, as a woman of color, has been, I think up and down in lots of ways, right? So as an Asian American woman, as an immigrant, as a shorter person, as somebody who hopefully I still look a little younger, there's there's been some misunderstandings of my capability. There's been maybe some assumptions about my
Mm,
style, my communication, maybe maybe people thinking they could take advantage, right? I got this all the time. I had a good mentor of mine that said, Naomi, I hope that people do not mistake your kindness for weakness, because
mm,
it's so easy for people to do, because you do care about, I do, I'm a, I do care about people and who they are, no matter who they are. But sometimes, because I'm someone who comes off that way, they think that, well, you can't be a leader, because a leader in Western culture is time is money, the loudest, squeaky wheel, like that kind of mentality, when sometimes the best leadership is the quiet leadership. And
wow. Yeah.
um, the best leadership is the one who's moving the boulder out of the road instead of walking around it, and
Mm,
that's not always the way we teach our students about leadership. Um,
mhm,
we want them to be in front of their names up in lights all the time. And that's just not my way. And so I think that has been hard for me. And then coupling that with maybe some assumptions around Asian American women and
mhm,
subservience, that type of sort of, I think, stereotype has been difficult. As people meet me and they know, like, oh wow, she has like lots of ideas and she talks a lot and she's,
mhm,
can be pretty energetic. That's not what I was expecting.
mhm.
That has been something that I've had to overcome a lot. And, but that's my hope, is that I'm helping people see differently, by
Mhm.
the way that I am, and that it also gives people a chance to think about how every single person is unique and individual. So that's been part of my journey.
Yeah, and you talk about overcoming some of those assumptions or even maybe even barriers in your role or just you as a leader. What does that look like in terms of you overcoming that? And what does wellness look like also throughout that those barriers?
So for me, it's consistency. Like, we talk a lot about how integrity is, it's about saying what you value, who you are,
Mm,
but then the actions aligning with those things. So for me, it's always about being consistent. I talk and treat people in the same way. Doesn't matter what your title, if you're a first year student or if you're
yeah.
president of the university or you're on a board. I'm going to talk to you the way that
Mhm.
and treat you with the same respect and kindness and care, because that's, I think that's important. Every person needs to be treated with the same respect. And so that, to me, I think, has helped me overcome some of the barriers, because people start to recognize. I remember a student wrote me a letter one day and he said something like, they'll watch you, they won't know, and then all of a sudden they'll realize she's who she said she is. And
Mm,
that, to me, one of the kindest things that I received from a student is to say that what I told him that I was and how I would treat people was exactly how I did it. And to me, that's
mhm.
integrity. So that's, it takes longer for some people to recognize that, and it's easier for others. Um, but that's those things, just to be me and to be consistent has been really a way for me to overcome some of those barriers and assumptions.
I love that. And it is also humanizing people's experience, right? The students and your colleagues and faculty, board members. It's, and I think that most Jesuit institutions kind of get that. There's this shared human experience that we're having. And while you may have a big title or you may sit in different positions across the campus that were, that require power or whatever it may be, there's still this shared humanity that that you are able to kind of like meet people where they are and share compassion and kindness. And I'm a witness. I experienced that from you, and I only met you right and during that one conference, and so I definitely know that you embody that. And I'm interested in knowing, like, what skills do you believe that are essential for leaders, especially in
Mhm.
your position and VPs and cabinet leaders? What type of skills are essential for success in higher education today?
I think in the moment that we're in, it's essential for leaders to find and help other people to become the next generation of leaders. I
Mm-mm.
think that we can't hoard power. We need to give it away and
Yes.
lift and amplify. And, just like Toni Morrison says, it's like when you're free, your next job is to free everybody else. And we've
Yes.
got to do that, or we're missing the mark. And I love Eric Liu talks about kind of some laws of power, and some of them are pretty depressing, like
Mhm.
power compounds and power justifies itself. But the best law is that power is infinite and you can always create new power. And I find myself now in the part of my career where my desire is to help other people to get to where they need to be to lead others and to give them the skills and tools so that they can continue the leadership that we have hoped for, that we want to see moving forward. I know that right now, for a lot of people, we're not seeing that in all assets of our communities. And so
Yeah.
my hope is we can do that here in higher ed, is to develop and skill up and fill up the next generation of leaders who care about people and humanity and justice and freedom for everybody. So
Mhm.
that's that's kind of what I'm seeing as a skill that really needs to be honed in on, and I'm working on that in the ways that I can.
Yeah. Can you share a time where you were called to lead during a crisis on campus? And what steps did you take during that experience?
Oh yeah, we've had, I have a lot of different experiences. I remember a time when I was, um, kind of younger in my career, and people did not know how to handle um, emergency situations where students were really hurting because they were being attacked based on their identity. And
Mm,
this is like earlier in my career where people weren't doing a lot of that sort of training and, having dialogue or intercultural dialogue. Yet they weren't doing it as much. And I just remember being in a moment where everyone, all my colleagues were saying things like, "Oh, thanks for handling that," or "Thanks for doing that."
mm,
And as much as you want to say, "Oh, wow, that's really nice to be recognized," I was very worried because
mm.
I'm the only one that can handle this situation where a huge bias incident happens on campus and literally wreaks havoc across multiple communities. And I am the one that literally sits in the classrooms with different groups and tries to help everybody. That is not, we're not doing the right thing as an
Right.
institution. We don't have enough people who are skilled to have these conversations, to really think about systemic issues within our culture, our policies. And to me, that was sort of like a tipping point for me in my career where I said, "Oh, we've got to address this." And so I was part of a lot of kind of a lot of different programs and initiatives that then started to get us skilled up. And whether it was creating facilitators across campus, faculty and staff who were trained, or creating policies around bias incidents and how we report things, to creating spaces for students to be able to be in community with each other across different identities. So I think that was a moment that really kind of opened my eyes to how do you do this one on one, and how do you do this on a systemic and kind of
Mhm.
institutional scale. And I think that really helped me, prepared me for where I'm at today.
Absolutely. And what has that taught you as a leader, like leading folks through a crisis, especially a campus? What has that taught you about yourself?
I i have to ask for help. I can't
Yeah.
be alone in
Mhm.
this. I think that's the biggest thing, is as much as it might have felt good to be the person that could do something like that, you know what if it was somebody who get burnt out right away, like that, then there's nothing, then there's no one that can help. And that I needed to take care of myself too in that moment, because I couldn't be up till midnight every night having these sessions with students who were truly having a hard time. I also needed to make sure that my counseling team, my other, faculty and staff advisors could help step in and be part of this. And that taught me a lot about the fact that I have limitations. I cannot do
Mhm.
everything. And, I was a young mom at that time. And,
Mhm.
so there's another job I do when I get home, and I had partner.
Right.
And, so I think that's something too, that for higher ed, and particularly for folks in student affairs, we love and crave the feeling of being needed and being able to help. But we also need to balance that. We've
Mhm.
taken care of ourselves. We are only one, each of us is one person with the same amount of hours and seconds in the day, but we also have, different gas tanks that need to be filled. If I didn't eat or sleep or, take care of myself, I couldn't be the best for the students, right? So I think
Right.
that helped me too, was to really think about how am I taking care of myself and seeing myself as a whole person, just like I see everybody else as a whole person.
Absolutely. Do you find that to be a little asking for help and um, seeing yourself and your colleagues and the folks you are serving as whole people? Do you find that to be, um, m- I guess, a more easier at at an institution that kind of like prioritizes that, since you
Mhm.
are in a Jesuit context, right? Compared to maybe other public or private institutions that are maybe non-religious or doesn't have that context.
I mean, I think regardless of the type of institution, if you have a mission, if you have a vision, a set of values, a strategic plan, something that you can point to that talks
Hmm.
about things like seeing people as whole people or thinking about wellness, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter what type of school. But if you don't, then it is difficult for folks to understand that they've got to think about all aspects of who they are. I've been at places where I felt we were getting to a point where we were developing a strong mission or a North Star statement, only for it to, if people leave, for it to go away again. And so we start again.
Yeah.
And so that's
Hmm.
the change management part of leadership, is how do you help people through change? But also, how do you ensure that there's always a vision? Like, just like I
Yeah.
said earlier, I have a spirit and spiritual and faith-based background, and I agree. If there's no vision, the people will perish. You can't.
Yes.
You're all walking in different directions or walking in circles if you don't have something that you're walking toward. And
Mhm.
higher ed institutions all have to make sure that their people know where they're walking toward.
Mhm. And good leadership keeps people energized during that journey, right? And having folks who are in leadership that understands what folks' needs are,
Yeah,
in order to really achieve whatever that goal is or whatever that vision might entail, whether that is in a strategic plan or just
yeah.
in the fabric of the institution. So I totally agree with you. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, it could also be in your younger self when using your early college career or even just career in general. As you began your leadership journey, what would it be?
That's a great question. I think um, maybe I would just tell myself that there will be times when you feel alone. You're not.
Mm,
And I think that sometimes as a leader or sometimes as someone who's trying to, be helpful, you do feel a little bit, there's a little bit of loneliness, especially as you kind of rise through the ranks of, leadership in higher education, because, you can't like talk about everything with everyone, right?
right.
When you're kind of newer in your career, your cohort and the people you started with, it's like those are your friends, right? And as you get into different leadership roles, maybe it's not like that. Like, these are your colleagues and you have some different boundaries and things, and it can feel a little bit lonely. But you know what? I've come to remember and realize that I'm not alone. I have to be just like my students, I have to help myself find my community and my belonging. Um,
Mhm.
it doesn't just fall in your lap. So um, that's something that I'm continuing to work on, is what are the things that I'm passionate about outside of work, and how do I make connections with people in different organizations or with people who are in the same place that I'm at right now as a mom.
Mhm.
These are places where I can find belonging, kinship, and also advice to continue the work that I'm doing. So you're not alone. And it may feel like that, but that's what I would remind myself.
I love that. I love that because this can be a very lonely journey. And I'm not even at the level you're at, but even just in this PhD program that I'm in, I'm like, this can be really, really isolating. But the ancestors are around me. I know that I'm doing this for a greater good, and so that kind of also pushes me to keep going because there is a community and a cloud of witnesses even
Yeah.
beyond this realm that are cheering us on. Um, Dr. Sig, what gives you hope for the future of higher education and the next generation of leaders?
Oh, honestly, it's the students. Like,
Mhm.
so much possibility. And, recently I had a student leader that I've worked with write to his fellow student community about the time that we're in and how we all need to care for each other, that we should never, feel silenced or afraid because we are different, right? I think
Mhm.
he really was so clear and just eloquent in making this message to the whole student body in a time when we could have more division and more polarization. And that gave me hope, and it gave me hope because leaders on our campus, leaders in our board, our president, they read that letter and they thought, wow, that's exactly what we should be saying to each other.
Mhm.
And that's our student. That's, our 20-year-old student, whatever, 2021,
Mhm.
who is coming up with this, sort of message to the community. And so it's always the students that give me hope, because if we can help them and accompany them on their journey of doing good in the world, then that's the hope we have, because I
Yeah.
won't be here forever. And my hope is that the leaders that I'm helping in this day and age, they're going to be great leaders alongside my kids, and
Mhm.
um, it's okay to be a seed planter too, by the way. It's okay that we don't see all of the beautiful garden that we're planting today. Um, but it is important that we plant those seeds.
Absolutely. I actually wrote that in a paper recently that um, we all play a role in someone's journey. Some are the tilling the soil, others are planting the seeds, and then others come along to do the watering, right? But we all play a role, and knowing that role is important and essential to the growth of that individual. And so I appreciate you saying that, because it's like alignment in many ways. But I am just so grateful for this time that you shared with me. Are there any initiatives or any upcoming projects that you have that you would like to share, or how can people follow you or follow your work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm, here at John Carroll University, and we're doing a lot of wonderful things. One of our new initiatives is really a whole person, whole life wellness and well-being strategy for our students, and we're excited about what that will look like. We just built a 125,000 square foot facility called the Athletic Wellness and Event Center that will, I think, be
Oh,
a big part
wow.
of that. So that's exciting. Other than that, I'm part of a lot of different things. I work a lot with veterans. I'm on a board for the Veterans Assurance Network, and I work with the Diversity Center in Northeast Ohio on their board. And I care about K to 12, because it's about who's coming up to see me soon. So I do a lot with our school district, our local school district, on access and opportunity for our students there. But if you want to keep up with me, I'm excited. I'll be, I try to hit up conferences like NATAHE and NASPA,
Yeah.
and I'm always available too if folks want to chat about any type of workshops or keynotes and things like that. I'm happy to do
Mhm.
those as well. I love working with other higher ed institutions and their teams to kind of think about all of the things that we've discussed today and their role in the work, and how do they maybe break it down to just, I know sometimes we want to boil the ocean, but we can't. But can we start
Right.
with ourselves? Start with us.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm a living witness that your kindness, compassion, and brilliance is infectious. And so I know that young, budding leaders that are coming up, and folks like myself who are just, researching and trying to make higher education spaces a better for the next generation, is inspired by your leadership and your legacy. So thank you so much for your time, and also just for the reminder that we are not alone, right? And that is the whole purpose of even my own personal platform or Brother Breathe, is to inspire others to know that there's a community of people that need you. They need your light, they need your talent. And so we are here to inspire and to remind them that they're not alone, and to just simply breathe through it. And so thank you again, Dr. Sigg, and I'm so excited to see what is in store for you personally, but also for the students at John Carroll University. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to see you again, Tate.
Likewise. All right, y'all take care. If you are seeing this video, that means that you made it to the end of the interview. And I am so happy that you made it. Now, listen, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video, this podcast to a friend, to a colleague, a family member that you think might benefit from this conversation. Also, email me. I would love to know what other types of series and conversations you would like to see happen on Brother Breathe platform. Don't forget to email me at mrbigheadproduction@gmail.com. All right. Please, again, leave a review. I read them all. I want to engage with you all. I love your feedback and leave a comment, right? We want to hear what resonated with you in this conversation and what are you taking with you to your job or to your home or to your church or wherever you find yourself as a leader. All right. Remember, we are here together and we are breathing through this together as a community. All right. Peace out. Love y'all.